but with that one class, they bring 3 variations of it. Their primary deck has...
It's very selfishly, but Blitzchung's Hunter, and it is not Mech Hunter, it is the you know, we've talked a lot about how much this Hunter does well versus Mage, and Mage isn't #1 for nothing right now in terms of how powerful this deck and this archetype is.
For example, Vex was a 4-mana 3/3. You're not going to slam that down on turn 4, but it's interesting to see how players choose which cards to keep in combination with other cards and which cards they want to keep to try and find other cards.
It's very difficult, isn't it? Because, okay, so let's just... We can ignore Blitzchung's mulligan for a minute, just because Hunter mulligan's a little bit more straightforward, and then the Mages right now, because I feel like this is so hard for the Mage. But what do you make of this? Because there are options where, as I said, if you go wide with the little dudes, say the Mana Cyclone Apprentice turns, Hunter can punish that, and your spells might not be that good anyway that you get, even if you can get the Cyclone off. But BloodTrail did keep a Giant, so is he expecting to keep this Giant down?
So on coin, having the Giant isn't terrible. You don't necessarily even have to hold it for the Coin Conjurer's Calling if it gets to that point. BloodTrail might just, you know, hold on for a few turns, play out the Giant as is. Blitzchung isn't running only 1 deadly shot. And then keeping the Apprentice and Cyclone is just flexible because there's enough cheap spells that hopefully by the turn you either play the Giant or draw a couple other things, maybe a Magic Trick, an Arcane Intellect. You have more stuff to go for with a huge Mana Cyclone turn. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff Hunter can do to get past that. And then we see Blitzchung doing a great job at this, just playing up the Spring Pop, playing up the Hyena. No reason to hold these things, just play them out so they're in play and then start hitting your opponent in the face. Don't give them time.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I'm not sure if Blitzchung has done this, like, I'll say on purpose, but the pink onto the Hyena makes sense, right? You don't give anything that Blitzchung can trade into to buff the Hyena. You kill it over 2 turns, what, 99% of the time? But by going wide, it means Blitzchung now has his choice of what he wants to Dire Frenzy. Because if the pink comes out, he Dire Frenzy. He can get Dire Frenzy off every time. If it doesn't come out, great, the Hyena lives. So it's a win-win situation already. And just right now, you already see... We barely talked about mulligans. BloodTrail's on 20 health. He does have a decent hand, but Blitzchung's already so far ahead. He has Stranglethorn Tiger to follow it with, or a Dire Frenzy, and starts tracking to gain some value to continue pressuring.
BloodTrail can't... It looks like he's thinking of just playing with the Giant. He has the potential turn 5, 3-mana Giant Coin Conjurer's Calling, but it's too slow. That's crazy, right? Like...
And that was going to be my follow-up question about the mulligans before we just got into how close to dying BloodTrail is, basically, is that if you keep Giant, Cyclone, and Apprentice, I feel like you need the Evocation to do anything. Because if you plan on playing the Giant on curve, or quickly, like you said, then you can't really play the Apprentice and Cyclone, right? Because your hand's going to go smaller, so the Giant gets further and further away.
I think that's why you get the Giant specifically because he's on coin and he's just going to throw it out and then go for a big Apprentice turn.
Right. And that's the point. It lessens the reactionary plays you can make without the evocation.
That's true. It makes it less likely you have more of those cheap cards you want. But I do like that he's keeping it because it's not always the case that, alright, I have Apprentice Cyclone, let me toss everything and get exactly Ray of Frost, because that doesn't always happen. This way with the Giant he has a few options. If he picks up Arcane Intellect, suddenly the Giant looks a lot better and a Conjurer's Calling, and if he doesn't and finds some cheap spells, then he can go for the Apprentice Cyclone route if he's really in a dire situation.
And now again, you know, the Giant was played, it was dealt with quite easily, and there's still 6 power on board with, you know, potential 8 damage next turn because of the Hunter hero power is always there. And BloodTrail wants to do something, but this
has to just play out the
like a lot, does it?
Could discover some cool stuff of a Magic Trick, an Ice Barrier, maybe Images, Ray of Frost, so there's a lot of good stuff, but if you miss this turn, then you take a lot of damage. So I do like just playing at the Ziliax and then saying, okay, maybe next turn I try for something a bit crazier.
Blitzchung's got some options now, but I think overall... okay. Interesting. Well, that worked out very well, don't get me wrong. But I was thinking, because it could have not worked out that well, I think trading the 4/4 and then just playing Stranglethorn Tiger, the next turn you can Animal Companion and Dire Frenzy, and you have a pretty much guaranteed turn for Dire Frenzy. And you never know, you might get huff for the Dire Frenzy and then you're happy anyway. Yeah. Maybe that was good enough, but Blitzchung chose a little bit of a different line and got rewarded for it, to be completely honest. That Leok was perfect.
Yeah, it was a bit riskier, but the payoff was pretty good. He's also in a good spot too, so if he whiffs, he still ends up trading the 4/4, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
He's weaving in the hero powers as well, just in case Mage happens to make a sort of wide board like we were talking about with mirror images. Obviously, there's no Unleash the Hounds in hand, and Blitzchung didn't have some of those refill cards that we were talking about tracking in Master's Call.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Go again?
He can go again, yeah.
Took out the Ice Claw on the Leon, trying to get it weaker so the missiles potentially...
Also bear in mind that these spells do not, like, the spell usage doesn't get used up when you play a Mana Cyclone. So the second one has all the spells you played beforehand and any spells you play afterwards. So this is even bigger.
Oh, the Ray of Frost is a great pickup. He's going to have to freeze both because he's a little low on health. He has seen a kill command, but still, I mean, with the hero power there and your Ziliax already being used, you don't want to be in a position where you can just get pinged down from the hero power for 4 turns or something.
And this is the position that you often get into in this matchup where, okay, I've just about secured myself. Oh, wait, in 3 turns I can be pinged down to death anyway.
That's assuming there's like nothing from hand too, right? No kill command, no unleash, no... Yeah.
Because if you look now, a lot of the, again, just outside of Giant Conjurer's craziness, the board often looks like this when you stabilize as mage because you have to do cyclone things, chain a lot of spells, etc., freezes, and that means that, you know, Unleash gets dangerous if you've not got a big taunt up.
So Blitzchung opting to play the Tiger here instead of hero powering, get something big on the board. BloodTrail does have some random cards in hand from the Mana Cyclones, but he's only running 1 Frost Nova in his deck, so getting the Tiger down is, I think, a lot better than just weaving in a hero power this turn.
I agree. And again, it's just a solid Dire Frenzy target as well.
Yeah. So BloodTrail has the option of playing a 3-mana Rabble Bouncer and Sea Giant, but that doesn't look too pretty on the board. There's a lot of large beasts facing him down here. There's not a whole lot else he can do, right? Like, he can polymorph a 5/4.
Nothing's cheap enough to get Luna cooking, right? That's the problem.
I think you do have to make a play like this. Just say, all right, I can't just play scared. I need to develop something, clean up the board a bit, hope you can't get through this, and the next turn I'll try to make my big push of, you know, Conjurer's Calling and try to win the turn after that.
So I think with Dire Frenzy, Blitzchung just puts BloodTrail to 1 and says, well, you've already used Ziliax, friend. Where's the heals?
Yeah, Blitzchung is very close to lethal here. If he plays either the Frenzy or the Rhino, they each push 3 damage, depending on how they get traded into it. So the Rhino, you can trade 3 damage plus the Spring Paw in, which is a bit overkill, but then you push 8 plus the hero power is 10, setting your opponent down to 1. Alternatively, you could Dire Frenzy the Spring Paw and accomplish the same thing. And then you have the Tundra Rhino in hand, and you can play anything.
I like the Dire Frenzy, because the Dire Frenzy puts more Spring Paws in your deck. I think there's 1 4/4 left in the deck for him, because he's drawn an extra 1. Or maybe there's 2 actually, but anyway. You buff it up, trade, and then that means that next turn you can Rhino, maybe draw a Spring Paw or draw whatever, and then charge those and probably fit hero power in as well. So I think I like the Dire Frenzy personally. Oh, is he going to Dire Frenzy the Tiger? I mean, okay. He's 1 turn away from drawing one with the Rhino, though.
I mean, BloodTrail's going to be on 1 health anyway.
That's true, yeah. I mean, we're really going in, like, a bit, you know, nitpicky here in terms of which way round you do it. Yeah. But the core point is, either way, Blitzchung puts BloodTrail to 1, and BloodTrail has to find some miraculous way to heal, and I don't think that way exists.
No, Omega Medic doesn't active until turn 10.
And there's the self-ping, and Blitzchung, and honestly, it's as easy as that. Like, it's crazy. The deck does so well.
Tertiary deck in game 2. So it's interesting that against the same class.
Cards like Baited Arrow, he actually has an additional Deadly Shot, which is much better versus a Rabble Bouncer, for example, on curve.
I agree quite a bit, and this is definitely showcasing Blitzchung's strength of not just blindly picking, oh, I'm picking this against Mage, I'm picking this against...
Right.
He's actively looking at the list, looking at the cards, and he's figuring out, okay, actually against this, I think I might want my secondary list instead because of the points you just outlined.
Yep.
And we see a Deadly Shot in his opening hand. He's considering being on the play. It's easier to play a Mountain Giant for the Cyclone perspective on the coin, so Blitzchung's perhaps considering, do I keep this Deadly Shot in case the Mage just plays out a Giant? And it looks like I think you do need to get on the board before having that Deadly Shot, because if you have that Deadly Shot and then nothing else to play for a few turns, great that you have an answer, but then you're not developing anything.
The Rat Trap, though. I love this card.
It's
so sick. Oh. Any time I've been playing Hunter lists, and you know when you play a few games on Ladder, you're like, I think I need to change something. Mm-hmm. Almost every time I go to I'm just gonna put a Rat Trap in, because right now, like, especially when Rogue was knocking around more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are so many decks that do just churn out big combo turns, and multiple cards means you get a 6/6, and by the time you get it, it's unlikely that they have the stuff to deal with it that turn. She gets 6/6 with charge almost, and it's absurd. And especially against Cyclone Mage, a deck that, you know, one of its core abilities is being able to chain a lot of spells. It's not like BloodTrail can really play around it either, unless just having a giant on board that lives somehow to trade off and then go is the way to play around it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if
So
it
hard.
doesn't get procced, your opponent has to consider, do I really want to proc this right now?
Right,
Maybe it kind of inhibits their plays a little bit if they so choose to.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can just proc and say, whatever, I'll freeze it if you have that, but it's
tough.
it's definitely a cool card, especially in this matchup.
And this is the point, right? So, you know, fair enough, there are double mirror images, so BloodTrail can go off next turn if he really wants with the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Okay, now there's one. The Sorcerer's Apprentice with the cheap spells, and then into the Mana Cyclone, even without Evocation. But already, Blitzchung's going to start building a board that can deal with the mirror images preemptively anyway, so this Rat Trap is still going to cause trouble. And I don't think BloodTrail can realistically, even if he knows 100% it's Rat Trap, what's he going to do? Just not play?
Yeah, that's
Like,
the
you
thing.
can't just not play multiple cards in this deck because it's what the deck's built to do.
You have to do something. I like BloodTrail using the mirror images here just to save some health. There's a Huffer on board, obviously, and that's 4 damage, but leaving the Huffer alive, not that BloodTrail could deal with it, means that Dire Frenzy is a threat, and if you don't play mirror images, you could take 7 damage, and that starts that up a lot.
I would love as well the Snipe this turn, because if you look at this list, Banana Buffoon and Swampert, which you could argue is like a punish for Snipe, but it still spends mana from your opponent, right?
Yeah.
But it means that we can see there can't be a Sorcerer's Apprentice turn now, because with 2 secrets down, it's so much more likely that one is Snipe, which means that you, because there's only a Rat Trap, a Snipe,
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now BloodTrail should know for sure, alright, that's a Snipe, that's a Rat Trap. Unless it was, he should be tracking cards and he might have Deck Tracker or something up, but those 2 cards were from the natural deck. The Explosive was created by the Shimmerfly, I believe.
Yeah. And that's why I said more likely. Obviously, it's 100% now, because I just didn't mention Explosive Trap was gained from the minion and not in deck. There is no Explosive Trap. Explosive Trap's in his deck. There we go.
I like this coin's lyrics from BloodTrail. Doesn't probably the Snake Trap, gets the Snipe out of the way. He recognizes that he's going to need some, like, he's going to need a big Cyclone Apprentice turn, which means that he should get the Snipe out of the way. The Ziliax also cleans up the Huffer, which is nice.
Funnily enough, though, just very quickly, it's a strong turn from Blitzchung, providing that, you know, another threat to deal with. But BloodTrail using a 1 mirror image and then the coin. Well, this big Cyclone turn's not so
weaker,
big
yeah.
anymore, is it? That's 2 spells down.
You could chain a few magic tricks.
I mean, that's the plan. I mean, seriously, that's actually what he wants to do, right?
Yeah. BloodTrail opting to Arcane Intellect instead on his turn, thinking that it's... If he goes on the Cyclone turn now, first of all, it's very, very unlikely he finds something that clears the Tundra Rhino, and then it will also proc the Rat Trap, and suddenly you're facing 8 damage, you don't actually have that much developed, so he's trying to find some more resources, perhaps a Giant Con.
It's going to be really funny. This magic trick has to be insane.
It has to be pretty good.
Those are not insane, which is why he went straight for Intellect. Please go do it. But the problem is now, like, I don't think Blitzchung cares.
Well,
outside of a Nova,
you can get a Sea Giant on the board here. If he finds an Elemental Evocation here, he can play the other Cyclone as well. Snap Freeze isn't bad. Frostbolt isn't bad either. You actually don't have a freeze right now, so the Snap Freeze doesn't kill anything. So the Frostbolt might actually be better. The thing is, I think BloodTrail wants to develop more this turn, something like a Sea Giant, because a 3-2 and a 2-2 isn't that good at fighting for board, right? You need something a bit more substantial.
It's very difficult though, because if you play Sea Giant, you're just dead.
Right, but I mean, if you don't play Sea Giant, what are you doing, right?
Yeah,
you're frostbolting something, but...
And this is the power, right? So the Hyena was played. If the Hyena gets dealt with, well, it's less likely the Rat gets dealt with. The Rat is effectively a Hyena that has been buffed by a few dead minions, right? You know, size-wise, right?
Yeah.
So it was funny just the way that interacted with, like, Hyena's down. If you do stuff to get rid of the Hyena, the rat probably
oh my goodness, this is going to be an insane amount of damage. So Master's Call to pick up the Timberwolf means that these the Spring Paws in hand can deal with mirror images.
And they've all got charge anyway, so Blitzchung can do whatever he wants in terms of trades.
He's going to clean up the Swords Apprentice because that is a threat. Yep, that goes upstairs, that goes upstairs, that goes upstairs, and now Blitzchung decides that he might look off the cycle at this point. He's got 2 kill commands in hand, that's just lethal. If nothing is done to kind of...
He needs to heal? Freeze or clear the... No, he needs to heal, clear the board.
Yeah, because the... Oh my god. Because the random just gives anything a charge.
Yeah, and it's still dead.
But it's just
I feel
crazy.
bad for anyone who's playing Mage against Blitzchung right now because he's savage.
And this is just consistent. Like, this happens every game. Maybe not this exact, 7-turn, game, but this sort of same thing happens. The hunter develops something, the mid-range hunter develops something early, hits face a couple times, generates more threat, gathers some resources, and then just deals with whatever the mage puts down.
Like, honestly, this is like Blitzchung, the only player who's brought Beast and mid-range variant of Hunter, and this is why I even said yesterday that I don't like Mech Hunter doesn't do as well as this,
Agreed.
in my opinion, at all. And this is just going to be game, and we blinked, and Blitzchung played yesterday, first today, so back-to-back matches for him, and he 2-0'd them both, and he can just relax and enjoy himself.